well. We just wanted to kind of bring it to the committee and kind of outline a little bit about how it was designed. A big thank you to Maria, who really works on the calendar as it relates to professional development, when we want to have those teacher work days and what are the optimal times to begin taking a look at our calendar and our student off days as well. We do try to match it with Arrowhead as much as possible. Again, we know that multiple families have students throughout K through 12. And also with Arrowhead, our transportation is also aligned to them and wanting to make sure that we utilize that opportunity as well. So very similar to what's been in years past, but again, we wanted to highlight a couple big changes, or what we would say would be changes. The first one is that you would see a Thanksgiving break. Typically, we take the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. For students and staff, you will see that for students, the proposal is to have the entire week off. Why did we do that? First of all, Arrowhead did that, and they put staff development on that the Monday, Tuesday before. So again, just kind of aligning that with that, but then also an opportunity to bring our staff in for some professional development at that time too as well. So that's kind of one of the first big changes. The next change again is we have no half days in this calendar either. So again, that's one of the things that's very family friendly, but again, that is a change. We also wanted to make sure that we finish school by June 6th so that we can start summer school June 9th. If we start summer school June 9th, that gives our families and our staff who want to participate in summer school that entire week off for July 4th to celebrate that and not have to worry about substitute teachers or people not coming to as well. Another one would be our February break. Typically, we've had our midwinter break would be a Friday, Monday. We have stacked that to a Thursday, Friday, and with some parent-teacher conferences. Again, we got that feedback from our primary staff, and we were able to put that draft forward too as well. So those are kind of the big changes that we had moving into next year. Again, it's your typical school calendar, something that we've been running pretty similar throughout the last couple of years too. So committee members, and I know Rebecca Imes is running a little bit late from a work meeting, but Andrew, do you have any comments or anything about that?
Have we ever done a whole week over Thanksgiving, or will this be the first time that the Arrowhead ever done it? So from an experience perspective, everybody will be, you've done it?
No, I know Swallow did it this year, but it was highly, like, knowing some of the teachers there, they really liked that setup. And so it went well. I mean, that's from what I know. So I know Swallow did try it this year.
Yep. We averaged about, I think on Monday, we had about 15% of our kids out. And on Tuesday, we had about 18% student absent rate.
This year.
But Arrowhead's higher.
Arrowhead is much higher. So Arrowhead saw an opportunity to say, hey, our attendance isn't good and we can get some professional development in for our staff. So they're going to try it and see what happens too. So it would be the first time in my experience here that we've had that full week off of Thanksgiving.
And then you pushed this out last week to families, right?
To families too.
And feedback?
Not a one. We did run it through our staff. A big thank you to Maria and Steve who ran it through their building leadership teams. We were able to take that feedback and actually make some changes within the calendar based on that feedback too as well. And I haven't gotten any parent feedback or staff feedback since it was shared in its entirety.
Okay.
So.
Where does those PD days, are they coming from? Where would they have been in like this year's?
Oh, we had one in the first part of December, and that's strategically put because we have trimesters at elementary, and that ends one for grading time, etc. So this is just happening the week before, so
Okay.
still close enough to get the trimesters for them to start working on comments, etc. So that's one of the days that it's coming from, and I think
The other one was a student day.
the
The
other
other one was a student day.
Okay.
And those minutes are made up because we eliminated 3 half days. So the minutes wise, it all works out the same, but one PD and then one non-student day for our staff. So
I guess we'll all see.
we'll all see.
Having not done it, I mean, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, so we have first review tonight at the board level, and again, we can gather feedback from the board, gather feedback from our community, and we'll see if anybody has anything to say about it. So, okay. All right, thanks. Great, I'll turn the show over to you.
Great, our second agenda item is looking at the curriculum renewal design cycle. And so, just to kind of go through, some of the information that actually, was in the memo for everyone. We last kind of looked at this from the, student achievement committee lens on May 23rd, 2022. This was kind of done in my first year here. Our old strategic plan, or the one that we're still kind of under as we're redoing, had like a cycle one, we review curriculum. But one thing I brought when I was at Merton is it didn't align to when the new standards were released by the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. And so like in years like right now, we're finding ourselves a little behind between when we're implementing new standards and when we're gonna be assessed. So one of the first things I did in my first year was to realign kind of what that looks like. And what I put in a memo here is that we did get notice at the end of 2023 that the DPI did update their standards document. And I was able to link that here for everyone to see. And that was done like near the end of the summer. And as you see, they kind of work twice a year with September. So fall and spring cycles of when they work. And then near at the bottom, they have some additional notes here that basically just remind us that they used to have interdisciplinary ELA standards that they removed. So those are a separate standards document. So that is like reading in the content areas, science, social studies that they're redoing. Those standards are going to put the literacy focused part directly into those standards documents. And then we are a little bit on pause still from 2023 with the WEMLs, which is the Wisconsin Elementary Early Learning Standards, excuse me. So they paused that work to get a bigger community together to talk about. And those standards kind of govern our 4K here mostly. But it's a more collaborative effort because I don't think I did a good job last time speaking to why we might get a broader community. Are actually daycare providers and other community organizations often use those WEMLs for their own preschool and early childhood programs. So that is why our government wanted to kind of stop, take back and say, let's involve more community members and get more community feedback in that, because some districts have 4K programs that are actually host in some daycare situations, some preschool options. And so just having a bigger group, they feel will lead to better revisions and standards. So that's a little bit of something in there. So what I did was kind of linked then to what my recommended revisions are going to be based off of the new DPI work. Now, of course, there's an opportunity here. Well, DPI might look at the standards and say they're fine and not do major revisions. We don't know that. But if we can kind of realign and make sure that we're seeing that, that would be great. So I did kind of plan the next couple of years out. That review phase, if you see a little box underneath there, if we know that something's on the docket that we might want to be looking at, that you'll probably be adding, that's sitting up there. I really would like to get our report card situation taken care of here. It's a little bit challenging to run trimesters versus quarters and semesters. It would be great to have our system on one reporting period so we can plan professional development, because right now we have to give time, all of those times for staff. And it's hard to do professional development when some staff need that time and other staff don't. So we really would like to line that up. Also, we're really looking at 4-year-old kindergarten for a major review next year. And so it's a little easier year for Maria. So report cards and heavy lifts take time. So I think it's a good time to bring that together. And it gives, frankly, our elementary system a little bit break of implementing something new. They've had social studies and math, and then they'll be going in through literacy. So giving them the following year to kind of take a little bit of a breather after a lot of heavy lifts, I think, will be wise. So as you see, I kind of outlined that for the next couple years. And I kind of cleaned this up more for our website. Are there any questions on that?
This kind of like waterfalls into the next year, like.
It
you
does.
Start up top and then you kind of move to the next phase in the next year, and then the next phase and the next, like,
Yes,
that's how
yep,
I'm understanding the color coding.
yep. So according to DPI, they are looking at potential changes next school year for science.
Yep.
And the essential elements, family, consumer ed, and tech ed. So in science, in DPI's own language, they say districts should kind of start getting to know what kind of revisions they have. So that's why it's kind of sitting there.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do anything, we're anticipating things. That's why the word anticipate is there. They may or may not do many major revisions. And then the second is really when we form a committee, because we have new information. The hope was for 4K that those standards would be done. They may or may not by next year, but we've done so much work with Act 20, I think we can't really hold out too much longer with some core changes potentially to that program. And then you'll see this next school year, we'll be reviewing that. Step 3 is implementing our new program, so you see K-5 literacy there. 4, we're kind of continuing to implement and revise. You see where our math and our 6-8 ELA are there. Because we're gonna make some changes and things that we noticed after this first year. And, you know, we're updating and keep working on social studies this year, which is, you know, continues to be true, and we'll work on more language. Actually meeting with both of those departments within the last week. So yeah, waterfalls like that,
Yeah.
Andrew, and, you know, you can kind of see how that looks on the.
Is there a cadence to how the state makes their changes? I mean, are they in a cadence of like major changes occur once every decade versus every 3 years or 5 years that helps schools? And
Yes,
communities plan? Is there a cadence that we know or think we know?
well, so no standards were done until about 12 years ago with the approval of the Common Core standards in ELA and math. That was the first time our state took work, like since the 90s actually.
Okay.
And then coming out of that, and getting a lot of feedback from schools, like these standards are old, like imagine the digital literacy standards from the 90s to what they were today. It was like keyboarding,
Yeah,
making a spreadsheet, and it was like, we have so much more to do. And so they got some pressure, which is why, you know, they went with this. I would also tell you what really led a lot of the legislator changes. And our process happened kind of a fallout of the Common Core standards. You might remember some districts felt like they didn't want to adopt that. Does the state superintendent have the right to do that? Then our government went and put together a proposal for having a standards committee process for that, our legislature.
Got it.
And that's what they're working under with
Got
that link that I showed you.
Okay.
So I don't, you know, to the extent of what they'll be revised, this is the first time in a long time that we're gonna hit standards that maybe are only 5 or 6 years old.
yeah,
So I don't know what they're gonna do.
okay. Thank you.
All right. All right, I'm just gonna go on to a little update of where we are on, Act 20, a couple links on the memo that might be, you know, just a WASB update, what the law is, the August presentation, I'm kind of keeping just a list on here of everything I've communicated about this so far and keeping it up to date. The Wisconsin Read, 28 things, and then, my October update, and I'm just gonna give you this little one from January. Welcome. So where are we in the state right now? I kind of say like, this is as up to date as I can kind of get it, because a lot's going on right now. But the Wisconsin Reads website is up. If you haven't clicked on there, but they're working really hard at keeping it updated. So you can go there at any time, click it, and you're gonna see some things to the point that actually I'm gonna click it and show you like the extent of updates. They're gonna do, updates on here of all the curriculum council meetings, how everything's playing out and all the recent updates for that. And if you click on the frequently asked questions, they're gonna put a last updated thing up here. But they're also gonna donate if they, to note on here that if they do any updates on just answering a question, they put in parentheses. So it is really kept up to date, which is a great help to curriculum directors. You're gonna see they have the applications and the job description out for actually the director of the Wisconsin Reading Center. They haven't hired anybody. Some DPI people are just kind of doing some of the work in the standards department, but they're looking for a full-time hire for that. I don't know who would be crazy to take that job, but they're gonna find someone because it's always, these jobs are hard. I look at educator effectiveness and no one liked Katie Ramey. So that was the director originally for that. And it just is really hard in these positions. So I joke, but I know it's gonna be. You're gonna notice that the Early Literacy Curriculum Council is meeting weekly, normally on Thursdays from 4 to 7. And one thing I just wanna know, it's really unusual, but our state superintendent, as well as their deputy chief of staff, John Johnson, have been sitting on the majority of these meetings. So this is like sort of a big deal. Just John Johnson's a great person to have on there. He ran all the standards work before he became the deputy superintendent, so I wasn't so surprised to see him there. But our state superintendent's kind of, well, they call John the chief of staff. Why do you think that they're in it? Because I think this is a really big deal. That's what I would guess. So the vendor rubrics and submissions, available with the January 15th timeline to submit their instructional materials. They met that following Saturday. And right now we know some from preliminary notes that only 2 vendors so far have made the recommended resource list. They're going back to a few vendors that were close. That's starting to make a lot of people very nervous. And a little bit surprised with that. They are refining sort of their process, and like I said, rubrics, they've been using them, but they're gonna continue to kind of meet with that. It was a whole Saturday that they were scoring these vendor rubrics. And then, as I already mentioned, the frequently asked questions part are updated and kept up to date. Okay, Maria. Some additional noteworthy clarifications. Well, good old WASB, and I don't think I've ever seen Dr. Russ so happy to give me a 73 item checklist over at, and he said this.
For me, it's for me.
This belongs to you, Maria. And that's just on the legal requirements that they're recommending. So working through those lists. We also got clarification. So for the most part, districts are not going to be able to use any federal funding for anything related to Act 20 because federal funding cannot be used for state law. So the big place where that probably hurts Merton most is Title II. Title II is dollars that is given to districts depending on their population of students. And it can only be used in certain core areas for the most part, but we can't, and it's only used for professional development. We cannot use that for our literacy adoption. So like our math work, we can continue to pull from there, but we're just gonna have to reposition district funds to cover the cost of this at this point. We do know the legislature does have a desire to perhaps put some more money into the required funding. We don't know if that sure is gonna happen, but just know about that. However, you can use the ESSER federal funds for materials because, how they chose, that money was related to the pandemic. They had very looser requirements around that, but we don't have ESSER dollars really that we anticipated using at that point in time for that. They also gave additional clarification for the 3Q prohibition in law. And basically, they want districts to be able to answer these two questions. Does the curriculum intervention supplementary instructional resource follow a specific scope and sequence? We can answer yes, that would be good. Does the curriculum intervention or supplementary instructional resource require the learner to apply their knowledge of phonics to solve an unknown word? And if the answer is to yes, then it is something that we can, is an approved.
So this takes the question of that we heard in a community member a couple of months ago. And we no longer say these types of things that we used to say. It says, if you're doing these other things, then the 3Qing, you may have asked that question, but it doesn't mean that it was illegal. Is that what we're gonna do?
Well, what they're gonna say is, and even in the rubrics for these core resource materials, they want kids to use their phonics knowledge to solve more than picture clues. And context clues, skipping the word. So if they're going to that first, we can't prevent a kid from looking at a picture, thinking about context clues. We're gonna continue to tell them. It's just, the phonics comes first. That's the best way I can continue to say it. They want you to prompt kids for looking at the word and what do they know in the word parts.
So it sounds to me like that answer helped that community members.
Yes.
Or would have been.
I hope so, yeah. And then, you know, one thing we haven't talked much about is the additional public posting requirement. Just like we have to post the dyslexia guidebook, our district has to organize and put together an early literacy remediation plan. Not too many details about what has to be on it yet. We hope we get some more information once we have a director. You know, so I don't know if that's something that's gonna mean a ton of work. Or is that something we already do, which I believe we do, because we all have a multi-level system of support here for students that are struggling. And I might be able just to link some of our stuff towards that work. Don't know much about that. Where we are in the process of reviewing and finalizing a personal reading plan to kind of pilot it before customizing in Skyward for fall implementation. What's new in the personal reading plan is really a partnership with the families and the schools, that when a kid needs an intervention and support, right now we kind of tell them what we're using and why, but we'll be having the requirement of sitting down with the family, providing some ideas of what they can do at home and what our role is. So we've been working on some things, and there's a couple families we're gonna reach out to kind of sit in these meetings so we can kind of work out the bugs. Which is kind of nice having me next door to work some of these items out myself and to see how they're working with our families. We're also, so it's the plan itself, and then that parent notification part and participation requirement. We're redoing our interventionist schedules and intervention fidelity implementation after this winter ready. So we're looking at data now and realigning to some of the new Act 20 requirements. Again, not waiting to fall, let's get it out, let's see, I really wanna give that building to a new principal up and running with these things in place. We're gonna keep working on our K-5 ELA review, looking at the potential different progress monitoring tools for student intervention. Act 20 tells us what we have to use, like legally, but we're also looking for something that we feel is better to use for students academically. So I hope that makes sense. Like, this is an example, and it might not be quite accurate, but the law might say we have to use a fluency probe for kids to exit intervention, but the students we might not be working on fluency with them. They might need phonics. So we will be double probing, as sad as what it is, we'll do the requirement, but then we also want to find a good tool that helps us make instructional decision-making for students that on a skill that we're working on. That help clarify that? And then, when I can't sleep at night, I'm going through that WASB checklist that Ron smiled and gave me. And I'll be checking, for implementation dates for task completion. So just working through that, I'll keep working through that, making sure that we are well prepared for whatever the requirements are.
Do we need any extra resources for that? Do you need any extra resources for that?
I don't think so. I know I've been meeting with Dr. Russ on the budget, not knowing what we're picking, but I know we're both over planning for that. And the cost of materials and potentially some staff training. On the calendar, you see it June 9th, Professional Learning Day. And I kind of explained to them, we have to have staff trained by July 1st, 2025 in the science of reading. And depending on what they're approving, there's gonna be a little fund for what's approved and who can get training when. Having a June date means that a lot of districts probably won't take that date if we need it and I can't get it anywhere else. It just provides us a little bumper before the July 1st, 2025 requirement to have that done. So I did try to think ahead of those things. It wasn't anyone's favorite thing to see there. And the good news is we may need it and we may not, and I may do something a little bit more flexible for them to be at home, especially since we're starting summer school, but it does give us a little more play. Frankly, because I didn't know. But I mean, if they say you have to do these two things, for example, and 473 school districts have to do it by the same deadline. And we have similar, in-services back to school and certain timeline, it just, who knows what we'll get. All right, that's all, community questions. These are from some of our community members. We're still gonna be working on answering them throughout these updates. I try to grab the one, how much time and practicing phonics versus discussion. These are things hopefully I'm getting to. But I hope my October update too did kind of show we're looking for a balanced literacy program. So we will not be swinging very heavy in that direction. All right. Any more questions on Act 20 that I might be able to answer?
Great job, stay with it.
Thank you.
You're the right person for it.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I am really, to be honest, I'm not, I get my chance. So Steve is going to give an update at Merton Intermediate. I'm gonna bring a presentation up that he has.
Hi, I'm always excited to at least when we give these SIP presentations it's always nice to be able to celebrate what's going on and share some of the good things that are going on at the intermediate school. So we're gonna take a little piece of our SIP plan. You can see from the big SIP plan, some of the green have updated green and yellow areas from the whole. But as we look at some key areas today, I'm gonna share some areas where we share some celebrations with you. I'm gonna share some of the work we're doing. And then finally, we're looking at next steps, and we're gonna also need some board guidance on next steps. So it's kind of the three things that we're gonna talk a little bit about. So our culture team, as you know, we put together, last year we started working on celebrating students and staff, and we're continuing that work. But one of the pieces that we're working on our culture team, we have completed our flow chart, it's almost done. I did link that into our SIP plan. And that flow chart is looking at when we talk about managed behaviors, what's managed in the classroom, what's managed in the office. And I think one of the words you'll probably hear me speak about a lot is the word consistency. So as we develop these things so that's for, as you look at letter A, that's for teachers, letter B, that's for students. Students, that's the matrix, as far as clear and consistent expectations in the cafeteria, playground, classrooms, bathrooms, and hallways. So if we have those consistencies across the board, and you'll see as we share a little bit of our survey that also kind of matches some of the survey. One of the things that we're also looking at doing through our culture team is we are gonna be piloting a hall pass system. When you look at the last one, the hallways, one of the things, Mr. Benny's helped us with a little bit, we have a secure system. We've got a couple of teachers who are interested in piloting this, and it just allows us, a bathroom system as far as, right now they just check on a piece of paper, but it'll allow us to be able to see, like, kind of track the data a little bit to see if there's somebody who's using the restroom 15 times, it might be a problem. If you notice that we only have one bathroom upstairs in the 6-8 area, if, kids are meeting up, we'll be able to see that data. We have some flexibility within that program to do some different things, but ultimately what we want to do first is pilot it, because as our culture team has stated to our staff the other day in our staff meeting, we don't want to implement something that's clunky and think the teachers are, why are we doing this? So we want to make sure it's something that not only gives us effective data, but also is relatively easy. So we're going to pilot it first to see if this is right.
Is that something information teachers enter? Is it that they enter the data?
No, ultimately what it does, the simple, like, on the kids' Chromebook, they log in, it's a simple thing, they log in, it says, it's basically, there's a green and a red button that, they raise their hand like we go to the bathroom, instead of going to fill out the sheet, the teacher can simply get to their computer, they can do it on their own computer, but they don't have to, which is kind of nice, which is what Mr. Brady and I talked about. They can click it, it's just a quick code they put in, and it's a running time, and then the kids come back and then they log out. And then it's, on our end, it's a report I can run from an administrative end to sort of see if we have any issues. So it allows us a little bit of flexibility. We'll see how the program works. We may decide that this isn't what's for us, it's another. But it's one of the things we're working on with the culture team when we look at that consistent expectations. And then you're going to see, I'm going to highlight some of our student survey. As a board of HIS and this community, you've seen the staff survey and parent survey. We surveyed our students and we get some really great feedback from our students. And I think one of the two things you're going to see, it confirms some of the work we're doing on our culture team, and also gives us directions for our next steps. We had 426 students take this. This was on December 15th. That was a 91% participation rate, and it was grades 4 through 8. We wanted to add 4th graders too, because it can help us with some transition data. I put this one up first. We'll dive into the questions. The school perceptions survey likes to put things in these 4 buckets first to take a look at. Connection, learning, environment, and experience, and then certain questions go underneath each one. And just like the other survey, I don't know if you remember when they had presented, they talked about that comparison group. So this is a comparison group of other middle schools. So how do we compare ourselves against other schools? And you can see, as far as like the big buckets, we're doing pretty well as far as those things go. So a lot to celebrate with our connection, learning, environment, experience as a broad category. So that's really great to see. Then we, as a team, as a staff, and as a culture team, now started to look at individual questions and things like that. And that's what you'll see. So the top 5 scores that what's the circle? Student perceptions had pulled this out for us. And the thing that I want to highlight with our top 5, thing that when I say something to celebrate, all 3 stakeholders are in here. We're talking about parents, students, and teachers. Because from a parent lens, the one question my parents and guardians tell me with school as much as they can, they ask 97%. I mean, that's awesome. Our students are in here saying, like, our students are saying, I'm doing my best, I'm helping other people. And then some really great things you'll see about our staff as well, thinking about my teachers treat me with respect. So for example, a couple of these questions, like that one as well, you go to the next slide. And I feel safe at school, teachers treat me with respect, and they know my teachers care about me. Those all normed against other schools, and that's our percentage. We're basically in the 99th percentile. Nobody scored higher than that. So that's some really big things to celebrate as far as things that are happening. The bottom 5 scores, you can kind of put them in little buckets here. If you look at our comparison scores, then even when we had talked, I met with Ron and I jumped on a Zoom with the company, and one of the things he noted, he said, as you look at your bottom score, you'll still see you're still in the top quartile of 25% in all of your lowest scores. So in your low scores, you're doing pretty well, but again, like any other organization, this is a chance for us to look, where do we want to go from good to great? And so if you look at this, like most kids at school follow the rules, it was one of the lower ones, still higher than normal, still looking at that. That's some of the work we're looking at, as far as our culture team is looking at, because maybe we do follow those, but now we have, it's consistent, it's very clear across the board, that's the work we're working at. As a culture team, you can see some of these, two of them, like I can relate to what I'm learning at school, and I talk to people outside of school about what I'm learning. Well, it's hard to get middle school kids to talk about anything outside of school sometimes, but I do want to think about that relation, think about, you'll see tonight, we bring our fifth graders in, talking about the service project. Some of those things are great examples of the way we're working on this. And then the last one, you can see up there as well, is like one of this, is like, if I were a bully, I would feel comfortable talking to this. So that's the one, when I look at this data point, and then I don't have a, you'll see my next slide isn't as clean as this because the presentation like this was for district wide, but I wanted to break it down intermediate. And when you look at our intermediate spreadsheet, that highlighted there was our lowest, one of our lowest scores. And one of the things now saying we've got multiple stakeholders saying, I'm satisfied with our school's efforts to address bullying. Parents are saying this, students are saying this. And so one of the things that we're going to be talking about next is what's next with that, some next steps. And this is where we're going to need some guidance because we sort of feel like hands are tied a little bit as far as what we want to do next. All right. So I want to share with you just briefly, year 7 and 8th grade, apologize, I left 6th grade numbers out, 6th grade, I will add this to the slideshow. They're about 50%, but they're a little bit higher than this for sure. But you can see in quarters 1, we had 7 students, 13, 12, and 14. And in 8th grade, we have 11, 6. Like for example, we're in 3rd quarter, we have 6 students in 8th grade in the SEL class, and then the rest dropped out.
And for reference, prior to 2 years ago, this was 100%.
Correct.
Because it wasn't an optional.
It wasn't an option.
Correct.
Right. So I want to get some context. So this is where.
Very important.
Yes.
Context.
Very important context. So 2 years ago before that, so when it wasn't an opt-out, it was 100% of students taking this. So now as a result of this piece, we have now as you can see now the ability to reach all of our students and do the work we need to do, looking at what we're asking them to do. And then.
Steve, I would just clarify, they were not required to take that in the class like we have it now in a quarter class. They were covering it once a week in their science time, but all kids were learning it.
Yes.
We moved it to the required Explore a Block one, why we redid that. I just wanted to clarify. It was a little different my first year.
Point being, all students had access to this
Yes,
learning tools, resources, etc.
Yes.
prior to 2 years.
yeah, it kind of rotated, I actually think, through the quarters, Ron.
Yeah, so the context to the numbers too is it's approximately 40%, 45% of our 7th graders who participate, and about a third of our 8th graders participate.
All right, so what I'm a really big believer, and I think what we really need to do is create a class for all students. Why do we want to create a class for all students and the ramifications of what's happening right now? First of all, I mean, if you're looking at the data from the multiple stakeholders, that's showing us something we need to work on. It's pretty clear in the numbers there. You know, being here every day with the families that I'm working with, the students that I'm working with, I mean, we can handle the discipline part of it, that's fine, but we also like to be proactive in the work we're doing. And so, I mean, I have lots of examples from being in the trenches from working with students. I mean, I can just give you a couple, for example. I mean, I had a parent in my office asking me, Steve, I think it would be really great if you could have Jenny Matson just go in and talk to each 7th grade class about a topic, basically about bullying a little bit. And I told the parent, I can't. We'd have to have her opt out. We'd have to have the kids be able to opt out before she could do that. Or I would like to have, you know, I had another parent in my office saying it would be great. it was like, I don't want to, there was a larger group of eighth grade students just saying, I think it would be good if you could, if Mrs. Matson could have a conversation about, just the way they kind of treat each other around with, bringing this group together. I said, we can't do that because of what we currently have in place as far as the current SEL which we have in place. So, and another thing too is if we walk into a class, I should say 6 students like today, walking into 8th grade class for SEL, second step isn't designed for 6 students. Nor is really any type of lesson for learning is a little bit more difficult. We've got, any type of curriculum design typically isn't designed for 5 students. We also have teachers, we have to put the students somewhere.
Study hall.
Right, we put them in a study hall, but the study hall isn't just, I don't have staff just staying around doing nothing. So it's always comes at a cost. And one of the costs too is we've designed, through our MLSS process, some students have like maybe graduated out of their intervention, which is a huge celebration. We can talk about that in the academic piece of our thing. But as they've done that, we're not going to put them back into Spanish. They're in a learning lab. They're in a learning lab to get some extra support. We have some students that are in an learning lab to get support for like different executive functioning skills, like organization, because they struggle with organization, need one-on-one help. However, there's a days when we have the study hall, that small group that's supposed to be small becomes much larger because I have to put them somewhere. So that's where we put down. But I think the biggest piece then too, in a lot of different ways, it's created division. And I'll give you multiple examples. Last year, we had an 8th grade transition to high school event. And because there was some SEL competencies that were going along with that, we had to have people opt in. And I heard from many parents that had like arguments and fights with their children because it became an 8th grade skip day. A lot of kids didn't want to do it. They got to opt out, and so it created division there. We only had, I don't remember the participation rate now. Right here, I don't remember how many people, I don't know, it was about 50%, but the bottom line is it created a lot of, angst and then all of a sudden some kids saying, well, why do I have to go? My friends don't have to go. And, even simple things like, I found some really good assemblies that I thought would be really good. But then if I run an assembly, I have to run an opt-out because it has SEL competencies. If it has anything to do with SEL competencies, like bullying or treating each other well, or those kinds of things, I have to create an opt-out, which creates work. Then I got to find a spot to put kids that are going to opt out, and it doesn't create division because just that snowball effect. And so we want to create a class for all students too, where we can partner with families. I think what are the Merton values we have when we can work together? Because we know when you we can work on those things at home, but I always think about, I work on manners with my kids at home when there's 4 of us around the table, but it's hard to model 180 preteens and teens in the cafeteria together. At home, that's a different way, it's a different type of thing. And so when we talk about we need steps, we need some direction for our next steps. What I'm not asking for is something that I believe should be optional. I don't think it's something we should do as an elective. I think this is something that is extremely important for students that are in middle school age, that we see in. What I'm asking for is to be able to get next steps on what the conversation around what do we keep out so it's acceptable for all. We're not married to second step. For example, if second step is an issue for strong, there's other things we can do. We're not married to anything, but we also want to know what is outside the field goal post that says this is not acceptable, but what is acceptable for our balls. Because one of the things that I hear from many families too, and and just because it's kind of how the nature of it's all become. We don't ask students if they want to take math or study hall. What's your option? So, sometimes it's nice to have, so we have a study hall option for an elective for older kids, but I just think, when we have that, it also tells you it's not that important. every 90, mom, dad, all my kids are, you know, my friends are opted out, there's only 5 kids in that class, I need to get study hall. I mean, I understand, I'm not being critical of people making their own choices, they've had their choices, but I wanna say, let's design a class that we know our students need. That, you know, working with our counselor, working as a team, or a culture team, looking at our data, we just now need some guidance on next steps.
I am a little younger at the 8th grade last year, so that's what's made it last year. And as they, after that, getting ready for high school, some of the friends said, I can't believe nobody ever talked to us about this thing, and just, they did, you didn't come. This, students, this was getting ready for high school, one of the things that the anxieties we have about a massive transition, and so that was something even my 8th grader.
Well, it's, I think what bigger picture is there's unintended consequences of
Yes.
board decisions. Where it wasn't as black and white as it's a study hall. Or it's SEL, that's as simple as it is, give parents a choice of study hall, where there's unintended consequences when we don't take the time to think things through. And have a proper conversation and speak to actually what Merton is teaching versus what the internet is saying about programs. So there's a very high level, broad conversation where there's a nuanced conversation that is meaningful to boots on the ground in our district that we should be having. If you're asking for direction, and I recognize I'm short time here, but I think bringing choices to the Student Achievement Committee via the work you can do with your building leadership team, Maria and Ron, and going through what you guys think the pros and cons of each one are. And then having an actual conversation of what we actually will be teaching here versus what the internet says we're teaching or not teaching. I think
So
that would be a point.
are you asking Andrew to that's, I guess, the question that we're having. Is this a curriculum issue because we don't like second step?
I think we have,
Or is it an issue around the social emotional learning competencies? Some of them, which we feel like we're finding a lot of value in around organizational skills, goal setting, et cetera. So that's what we're asking. We don't really know what to come back with.
well, I don't, this is my opinion.
Yeah,
I think that SEL, and in this case, second step, has been hijacked by a national narrative. Every conversation that we've had at the board level or in the committee level, in the past 2 years or 2 years ago about this, never talked about what Merton is teaching.
Mhm.
Never talked about the lesson plans that we were teaching.
Mhm.
It was, this is bad, it's teaching these things because that's what a report off the internet said. Or that's what a group who reviewed second step says. We're not talking about what we're teaching. And I think that's where our district lost. And it lost its way in this. Like, I'm all for looking at something in it, and if something isn't good for our kids that we are teaching, not what the internet says, I think that's what it should be. And we lost that, unfortunately. We lost the ability to have that conversation in August of 2022. We lost it with 4 days notice. 4 days notice. We had an emergency meeting. We had 1 hour to have a conversation and it was voted on. And, you know, we lost the ability to have the conversation.
So what we're interested, so I think, Maria, to your point, the 2 questions I see are scattered. The larger one is there's interest in a non-app opt-out. That's what you're hearing from us.
We're interested in building a class
Yes. a class
with,
for everyone.
for skills
Yes.
that everyone needs, that we find value in,
So
that we want to make
conversation-
sure meets our community values.
And then which curriculum you choose to meet that, I think, is the secondary portion of it. So whether it's second step or a different one, the first portion is I'm hearing that we want to have third, and that's the part we'd like to see proposal for, and then does that make sense? And the curriculum choice, whichever you think best fits that model is. So I don't think this is just a second step. we're gonna do second step, because I'm not interested in a different curriculum with also an opt-out.
I think yes and yes. I think what we're still trying to do is understand the motion to bring something forward with, like, that's where we're sitting at.
So does that come? I believe it comes to the committee, and then the committee would discuss it and move it to the board for the next conversation, yes?
Right.
So which part do you need more clarification?
I guess maybe depending on where you guys think, taking it to the next board meeting to discuss what that motion means to the people on the board.
Great, let's put it on.
Yes, yep.
Let's put it forward on.
You know, because I remember,
My list of things to add.
yeah, at student achievement, last time we talked about this
Yep.
around the ACP plan. I heard from some board members, we didn't mean organizational skills. We didn't mean that. But we never got to clarification because that was in second step. Does that mean we can do those lessons? What is your goalpost for social emotional learning? And what can we cover and what we can't?
I would like to, all the skills that you think are important to our students having a good foundation so that they can be learning together at school.
So we could bring that forward
So we'll add it to.
and add it to February for a broader board discussion
Yes.
in the context of having a class for all.
Agreed.
Fair?
And I'd say after being at the state board meeting, all those, everything else that I went to, it wasn't even a question. It was just a bullet point for, and this is what we do for our SEL curriculum, and it was in districts that the national conversation would have to say they absolutely wouldn't be interested in it. It wasn't wrong, am I wrong on this? I didn't even see it really being a hot topic. It was just a, of course you would teach that. So I would like us to be a part of it.
That's the important. Is we can backfill some of the information that you guys are asking for too. Absolutely. In the context of, you know, what could it look like and things, really understanding what the parameters were, kind of going back to Steve's graphic here.
And Steve, I really appreciate your data that you've gathered together to make that argument. It helps us.
Thank you. Thanks. Looking forward to February.
So that ends our agenda items for Student Achievement Committee meeting. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dan.
Sure. Here again, this is Jones, and we have 7 fifth grade students here to present on their community service project. So, Mrs. Jones, I think we'll turn it over to you to start.
Okay, great. We are really excited to present our community service project to you today. It was a smashing success. The kids made it so, and this is our 3rd time doing it. And it really is a student-led project. For the board members, I sent you that video that really explained everything. And the kids did a great job reaching out to the community. They picked organizations that were near and dear to their hearts. They'll tell you more about that. We raised a lot of money. In fact, Mrs. Rebecca, could you get that little blue Post-it note on my cart there? And could you read that number, please?
$5,763.40.
Is what we raised. Thank you so much. That is what these kids raised. That's what they did. That's the work they did, pounding the pavement, making phone calls, sending emails. They did all this adult grown-up stuff and they did it beautifully. We are so proud of them. So without further ado, let me have them explain to you what they did. And please give them a warm welcome.
Alright, so hello, my name is Nicholas Cullen and we will be presenting our community service project and its journey. Hi, I'm Louis. Hi, I'm Kane. Hi, I'm Nora. Hi, I'm Ryan. Hi, I'm Fiona. Hi, I'm Sam. To start things off, this was a big responsibility, and for anything to succeed, you need inspiration, like a little spark to light the fire. So our inspiration was someone named Don Lettrick. Mrs. Jones met him at a meeting many years ago, and they are still friends today. So we had a lot of flexibility. We got to choose our groups. We got to choose who we got to raise money for. So me and my friend, we chose the Wounded Warrior Foundation because so they basically donate money to wounded veterans because we all have had veterans in our family, and we just wanted to give back to the community. And another thing we could choose is how many, like who to choose in our groups. I kind of just explained that. It started when me, Kane, and Nicholas came together as a group to the Wounded Warriors Project. Most students had a team, but someone soloed. That night we told their parents about the cool and exciting social studies. Then, and the next day we started to research our organization. We reached out to the Wounded Warriors Project, and then we found out that we can make a website that eventually helped us make $551. Nicholas, Rick, and I called Wounded Warriors Project. Before we called, our group needed to write a script on what we wanted to ask for in the information. We called 3 times before we got hold of somebody. For a lot of perseverance, we finally talked to somebody. We included ourselves and explained we were looking at community service project at school. We explained how we were interested in learning what we wanted to do in the project. The lady on the phone was very helpful, and she was able to help us set up an account on the website. But the email address to donate the money that we raised. My group and I also know the important it is to have proper when we're talking to an adult to make sure that we were serious about it.
During our project, we held lunchtime sales to raise money for our organization.
We did this by making posters, creating advertisement videos to let people know what we were raising money toward, and letting them know what we'd be selling at lunch.
Making the video. During the process of making the video, we had to include what we were selling at the lunch sale, such as the date, price range, and what grade lunchtime. When we would finish the video, first we had to send it to Mrs. Globig, because she was in charge of making the morning's announcements. We did this the day before our lunch sales in a well-written email. After that, Mrs. Globig had to look over our video and put it in the next day's announcements.
Posters. In the process of the community service project, we had to make a poster for our lunch sale table. We had to make posters for our lunch, put it on our table during the lunchtime sales because it let people know what we were selling and our organization we were raising money for. Table setup. In our community service project, we set up tables for the lunchtime sales. This happened by kids having to leave early from their daily classes to get to the lunchtime that they were selling their goods in. When we set up the tables, we had to be responsible for the appearance of the table.
Some kids took this into their own hands to bring tablecloths, signs, and decorations. Some of the groups called local grocery stores to raise more money at. When the lunchtime sales ended, kids had to clean up their table and leftovers of their sale.
Donating time and talent versus raising money.
Another part of our project was we donated the money that we raised. If we chose an organization like a senior living home, we had the choice to go there and do something just to donate time instead of raising money at lunch, such as performing a song or maybe a dance, whatever you wanted to showcase. We could also volunteer at the living homes and just help around the building.
Another way that kids raised money was creating their own online websites. However, if we had Children's Hospital, all the groups would have donated the money that they raised and called it good.
One surprise event was the Children's Hospital came to Merton School and gave us a presentation. That is when the groups made a check and handed it off to them.
Google Hangout with Don Electric. In this unit, we had a lot of opportunities like this. There were many pointers who got along the way to help us be even more independent, such as Don Electric's live Google Hangout with us. Mr. Electric gave us nice feedback on our project. We also told Mr. Electric about what we were going to do this winter. Another thing that was really nice is we asked him questions and got feedback for his responses. Mr. Electric was very positive and helped us and made us feel really good about what we accomplished. It was a blast having a hangout with Mr. Electric, especially because of the fact that he was very open-minded to our ideas. Children's Wisconsin. This is another opportunity again because Children's Wisconsin got to come to our school the same day we did the live Google Hangout with Don Electric.
They gave us trivia questions about Children's Wisconsin, and that was a lot of fun of us. Then at the end, they gave us sunglasses. The kids who did Children's Wisconsin, they got to write a big check at the end and put how much they raised. This was a really fun experience, and everyone who did it, even through Children's Wisconsin, it was fun because they did trivia questions a lot. This was amazing experience and opportunities for everyone. When we presented to our peers, we told them our highs, our lows, what we learned, what surprised us, and the standards we used. We did this to show how personal this really felt. For example, I did a project called Souls for Jesus, raising shoes to donate to kids in Africa. One of my highs was getting 17 brand spanking new pairs of shoes from Colombia from the name of Clerk. It was a big impact, and those were like mountain shoes, great for the terrain. Nothing was just thinking about how blessed those kids are actually going to be to have shoes on their feet. It's winter right now, and thinking about us, no shoes on, walking around in snow. That would be pretty bad. Now we are going to tell you what was most meaningful to us. As I said before, what was most meaningful to me was just seeing all those kids being blessed. What was most meaningful to me is that when we raised money, it wasn't just going for us, it was going for the organization we chose, for the project and people who needed it. Something that was meaningful to me was raising money for a good cause and knowing that it will make an effect on someone who needs it. I think this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity we've been given, so it's just really cool and a fun experience. What was most meaningful to me was knowing that I was doing this for someone in need and just having fun along the way. Having problems that we could try to fix and high goals really made it fun for me. Also, we had some fun times. We had to get a lot of laughs out, which was pretty fun. I mostly thought what was most meaningful was having the best partner ever, Riley. I couldn't ask for anyone better than her.
What was most meaningful to me was help the patients and the workers. What was most meaningful to me was the family members that donated their money to the wounded warrior. What was most meaningful to me is like planting the seed of kindness in others.
Want to wrap up with a couple things. First of all, I think we can all say having students come to the board meeting makes it a much better board meeting. So let's thank you again. Thank you for coming.
Any questions? Me and my fellow peers will answer them. Yes.
What other kinds of organizations did your classmates raise money for?
I got this one.
Some did like, Hawes was like the biggest one, probably a lot of people did that. I don't know, other humane societies, things like that. Anybody?
We did the Regency pro healthcare senior communities. It's like a living home. I did Souls for Jesus, so that was a big one. Another one of someone did a blessing or a backpack. Is another one.
There were a lot of humane societies. There was one in Elmbrook that they did, the Washington County Humane Society, Paws, as they said, a couple of different senior living communities. We had one group go there and play music for them. And oh yeah, when some Special Olympics with Giada there. Lots of different ones. They pick them if they have some connection to them. So. Other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. My name is Rebecca Imes, and I'm one of your school board members, and I teach speech to college students. And I want to let you know how many adults do not like talking in front of a room like this. So I want to congratulate you. You were organized. You made great eye contact. I could understand everything you were saying. Your personalities came through, and you shared really good content. So your projects are wonderful, and your presentations have made that much more special. Thank you so much.
Make sure, I just want to thank some staff. So there's a lot that goes into this project. Doesn't show up and happen. I want to first of all thank our fifth grade team, because the fifth grade team did an amazing job leading us. This is evolving and people working on the videos that, helping get those out for the advertising pieces, and even our lunch supervisors at lunchtime. There were a lot of, the kids are really excited to buy all kinds of stuff. They're selling all those things, and to make it all happen, there were a lot of people that also helped. So I just want to thank the staff that, make it happen. But great job, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nicholas? Yeah. Dan? Right. Thank you. Thank you very, very
Yeah, thanks for coming. We're just gonna grab a picture out in the hallway. I was like, professional, just like this Rebecca said. Of course.
Okay, we're going to get started with the community forum. And I have two people who would like to speak. Kristen Barr.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Kristen Barr, the current fourth grade teacher here at Merton Primary, as well as a community member right over on Huntington. I first wanted to appreciate all of you for the work that you're trying to do this year. It doesn't go unnoticed. I greatly loved the work around truly trying to be transparent in communication. Most recently, January 11th, I apologize for not being able to make the meeting with the staff, but the fact that it was videotaped, I was able to watch it on my own and email out feedback as well. Kudos to you for listening to some of the issues that arose, taking the feedback of the staff and family surveys and trying to act upon it. With that said, one thing that I wanted to share today was, as you know, in today's meeting, you're voting and approving the open enrollment and the seat sections for next year's school year. And I'm sure you did the data as well and noticed that in the proposal between third and fourth grade classrooms, there's an increase of 8 students per grade, per classroom, I should say. If you looked at the board packet and saw that we're anticipating next year, rounding up for sake of math, 16 third graders per classroom, and then in contrast, 24 in each fourth grade classroom. Merton prides itself on small class sizes. One of the reasons I moved here 2 years ago with my growing family. Typically in the world of education, small class sizes is 20. And 24 is a jump, especially knowing that this year we've had class sizes of 19 and 20, and the projections next year are looking like that as well, with the exception of fourth grade. So I know we're working on transparency and open communication, and I guess I would love to just be aware of where that thought process is coming from. The 24 isn't, I mean, I've taught classes of 32, 36. I'm not worried about educating the 24 kids in my classroom. What I'm worried is that we have a discrepancy of 8 kids, and I'm not mathematically sure why that's happening. Because if next year our third grade went to 4, that would be 19 kids in a classroom. If our fourth grade stayed at 5, that would be 19 kids in the classroom. So for some reason, there's gotta be a reason we're going 15 in one grade level and that grade level being 3rd grade. Statistically, if we're saying we want small numbers, then let's push down into 1st grade to give them 15, where we're really building that foundation. So a little bit of just insight that I wanted to share with you today during the open course. I'm not necessarily looking, I guess, for any answers, but rather I want an opportunity for my voice to be heard. I know Ron did a great job and came to us prior to the board packet going out, but that was Wednesday during a lunch break. I didn't have the numbers in front of me. Had I would have pushed back a little more sooner, and I know the decision being voted on tonight, so wanted to take some time this evening to come and just make sure that my thoughts were heard, as well as hear where the rest of the meeting goes.
Anything want to comment?
Sorry, you guys probably recognize me. I just want to add on, I told myself I wasn't gonna speak at the community forum, but Spark has opened up the one question I came here for tonight. I have a kindergartner and a 3rd grader. So going exactly to what she just said, I'm here to understand specifically why my kiddo is in a class of 18 right now. He will be going into a class size much larger. Would appreciate understanding what that is, or what the reasoning is behind that. The current 3rd grade as it is right now has assigned seats at lunch. And I've been told that's because of a collective behavioral issue. So as a parent, my concern is if they go to a larger class, where do those behavioral issues, how do those play out? So I don't mean to like jump in here. I just thought it was the perfect moment to add on to the concern that has been already raised.
I appreciate that. I feel like that's the purpose of this portion of the meeting.
Certainly. I can certainly share why we made that recommendation. No,
Before we also clarify, it's a recommendation, so we have not discussed this yet. So it comes because we can't talk outside of an open forum together. So the recommendation comes to us and we will discuss before the beginning vote.
right, yeah. So we do take a look at all of those things into play, whether it be student dynamics, student, academic ability, mixes of kids and things like that too. So that certainly does go into that too as well. So when we started to create our recommendations for the board as it relates to open enrollment numbers, we took a look at a couple different things. One is what kind of class size did we feel was very doable with the students in which we have looking forward, right? So for instance, we take a look at the 3rd grade group and we take a look at, yes, there were 18, 19 in the class. And we took a look at their academic performance. We took a look at, just took a look at them as a group and then said, okay, do we feel that this group can go from 18 to 24, given the scenarios that we have at 4th grade? When we take a look at that scenario at 4th grade, what also plays into that too is right now we have 4 classrooms that are together and 1 that is isolated. And those 4th graders are now next to 1st graders, right? And so those students, we feel are getting, and again, when we talk to Ms. Schmidt, who's experiencing it, there's some things that kids are missing there about, peer relationships are probably the biggest ones because they're always together with those 24. Now there's opportunities like today, I walked in there in Miss Finn's class. There are some times when that 5 section goes to 4 as well, but we took a look at that opportunity for student experience, but also for that staff collaboration piece too as well. Ms. Schmidt is kind of the only staff member at Merton Primary School, and even across their district, that is where they're not, we'll call it departmentalized, but the opportunity for that daily collaboration or that proximity is not there too as well. So with that 3rd to 4th grade group, we took a look at all of those different dynamics and felt very strongly that 24 in the class is very, very doable. First of all, we've done 24 before. We certainly have. I mean, you can take a look back at
2nd grade was that large for us.
2nd grade was that large too. So then we said, okay, we're gonna split it so we could get some more core, work there, some smaller attention, and then bring it back there to the 4th grade too. The other piece of that is when we take a look at Merton Primary School's growth or the growth across the district, we don't know where that's going to happen. Okay, and when we take a look at the classroom space that we have available, we are utilizing really one classroom as kind of that overflow. It could be for fourth grade, or it could be for that first grade group too as well, which you highlighted your 5K or the first grade, looking at that too as well. So again, the decision was made when we took a look at how many students that are currently in 5K, and we said, do we want to maintain 15, or do we feel that we can really maintain a very high level of expectation for behavior, academics, and meeting student needs at 19-20? Absolutely. And when we took a look at that too as well. And then conversely, I know Ms. Barth brought up, that second grade group. We feel that they do need a little bit more attention, a little bit smaller class sizes for that group. Again, that's our recommendation for next year. We may take a look at it the following year as third graders and say, okay, we reestablished what we wanted to, and then let's bring that more to that 4 sections of fourth grade too. And again, every year is a little bit different that way too. So it's something we do take very, very seriously, and just wanted to make sure that we propose something that we could live with. Again, our 2 watch spots, as you highlighted, unfortunately, are where your children are, first and fourth grade next year. But having that one classroom as wiggle room, then we have to make the decision. Do we want 22 or 23 in a first grade class, or do we want 25 in a fourth grade class if we have both of those 2 things being all equal? So those are things as we take a look at enrollment, and as we continue to grow, we keep the board involved. And again, nothing says that we can't open a section. Now, tonight, if the board says, nope, they're going, we want 5 sections. Okay, our administrative team, then we would counter that with additional open enrollment seats to say, okay, we're ready to let more kids in that way too. So again, these are, unfortunately, we have to do this in January. Okay, so not in March, not in April. So we're kind of making this prediction the best that we can with the information that we have too. So, and not knowing, what the future holds from a, just a financial standpoint too, is where do we want to make sure that we put our dollars prepared for the 23-24 school year. But believe me, we will have a contingency of an FTE like we always do.
I would also add, just if you don't mind, from a just context wise to fall of 22, we held a community discussion, 2, maybe 3 meetings. I think we did like September, and then we have just a separate
For what to do with fourth grade.
for what to do with fourth grade, like, because Dr. Ross was saying, hey, we should shift fourth grade from the primary school over to here. And so we had that conversation. There was significant pushback from the community saying, not my kids, don't want them over there. Partially driven by, if you look at the statistics of, and I think Dr. Russ has it in here, but like back in 2020, 715 Merton residents going to school in Merton Community School District. We're up to 791 now, and more basements are being built all the time, right? And so I don't think it precludes the board from continuing to have that discussion in the future about creating more space at the primary school by shifting fourth grade to the intermediate school in the future to create more room, because what we don't have over there is classrooms.
So with the proposal for seats next year, we currently do have 5. We're cutting fourth grade down to 4. So it's not that's not an issue. We're actually freeing up a classroom for potential.
You're right.
Yeah, so, but yes, I do hear you, and
I'm speaking to a bigger picture
Yep.
of like, and we said this back in the fall of 22, which was, the community really spoke and said, hey, we don't want this. But what's gonna dictate it is the continued growth of residents and then open enrollment and having to make a decision on open enrollment, which is really, to some degree, not to get into the financing of school, but it's free money to us. And being a 6th grade school district, I think people want to come here from outside.
And I guess to that point, by moving next year's fourth grade down to 4 sections, our open enrollment seat for fourth grade is set at 0. So I would think that that is not appealing to families who want to come to the 6th district in the state, Cause if you have an incoming. I mean, if you're like me and you may have an incoming third grade and fourth grader at some point, we would say, we'll take your third grader, we got 10 open enrollment seats. Sorry, we can't take your fourth grader, we just lost that potential free money. Now, again, I hear that, like. I wouldn't be here tonight if you told me every classroom was getting capped at 24. I wouldn't even be here today if you were saying every classroom was at 24 and we were having open enrollment seats. The issue is the discrepancy between a class of 15, 16 and 23, 24 is still not making sense. And what I'm hearing is things like the academic and behavioral needs of that cohort is justifying that they can be in a larger group. However, when they tried that as second graders, it didn't work. We moved them to 5. It's working. Let's try 4 again so that I'm assuming there's some budgetary implication to this as well. And while Ron did a great job assuring us that I'm not worried about me losing my job, inevitably, I'm on a teaching contract. And Ron and the district could come to me in May and say, you're gonna be a 7th grade math teacher. I have to be honest and admit, I'm in control right now. I'm looking at our neighboring 5th grade district in Heartland. Maybe I wanna apply there and know that I'm in control of the future of what I'm teaching. I also think that it should go mention that if you look at that staff survey, some of the highest scoring areas are, I push my team members, I hold them accountable. My team does great things. And in this constant 4 sections, 6 sections, 5 sections every year being I don't know what I'm getting in my team is really hard to continue to build that momentum.
Katie also.
Yeah, that's me. Hello, everyone. Seeing you again. I'm Katie Barshman. I'm Vice President of the Merton PTO. And on behalf of the PTO, I'd like to take a moment to express our sincere appreciation to our dedicated school board members as we celebrate School Board Appreciation Month. You consistently invest significant time and effort, attend countless meetings, and work diligently to enhance the experiences of our students and staff. Your commitment to shaping policies, allocating resources, and providing strategic direction is instrumental in maintaining a standard of excellence in our schools. We want to extend a huge thank you to each member for your hard work and unwavering dedication. So to you, school board, your efforts are truly valued, and we are grateful for the positive impact you make on our educational community. Thank you for your continued commitment to fostering an environment of learning and growth. And I have treats for you. So. Everything's got it.
Okay, that's all that is signed up. Open. Then we're gonna call the meeting to order. Okay, I'm sorry, our meeting is with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this meeting is properly posted in all the normal posting places.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion's carried. We're on to the minutes.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes for Monday, December 18th, 2023 at 5 p.m. open session strategic planning.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion carried.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes for Monday, December 18th, 2023, 6 p.m. open session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Any discussion, additions, corrections? All in favor, then say aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Motion to approve, meeting minutes from Thursday, January 11th, 2024 at 6 P.M. open session before self-reflection evaluation.
There's a motion and a second. Additions, corrections? All in favor, then say aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. On to the financial report and bill list.
I move we approve the voucher listing for December 13th, 2023 to January 23rd, 2024. With payroll, we have direct deposit number 900061246 through 900061369 of $210,159.07. Direct deposit number 90006137190061487, the amount of $167,027.18. Direct deposit number 900061488 900061606, the amount of $185,067.02. Wire transfers, wire number 202300140 through 202300172, the amount of $522,903.78, for a total payroll of total payroll of $1,805,157.05. For accounts payable, check number 56249 through 56304, the amount of $256,179.84. AP wire transfer 202300149 to 202300150, the amount of $809.18. Wire transfer 202300158 through 202300160, the amount of $8,594.66. Wire transfer 202300173 through 202300173, the amount of $307.73. Credit card transactions 112023 through 112023, in the amount of $22,402.99. Transaction 122023 through 122023, in the amount of $19,525.37. Direct deposit number 232400054 through 232400062, in the amount of $1,232.78. For a total accounts payable of $309,052.55 and total disbursements of $1,394,209.60.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second approving bill listing and financial report. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving it, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, we're on to delegations to be heard, and no one has signed up to speak to us. So then we are on to district administrator's report, and we have action to donation.
Yep, we have one donation. We'd like to thank Mr. Ryan and Bank of America for a $500 donation to the Merton Theater. Thank you very much. Just looking for a motion to approve the donations as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, then say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Personnel action.
Sure, we have 3 personnel actions. We'd like to present Rachel Schweiger's letter of resignation from Merton Primary School Library. We'd like to thank her for her 1.5 years. And then to replace Rachel, we have Therese O'Craig, again, coming to us as a former first grade primary school teacher with several years of experience. You'll see her letter of appointment there. And then an updated letter of appointment for Jordan Zurcher, our maintenance and HVAC specialist due to industry adjustments. So just looking for 3 motions, one to approve the letter of resignation for Rachel Schweiger, one for motion to approve the letter of appointment for Jordan Searcher, and a motion to approve the letter of appointment for Therese O'Grady.
Motion to approve the letter of resignation from Rachel Schweiger as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
All the same sign. Motion carried.
Motion to approve the letter of appointment for Jordan Zercher.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, then say aye. Aye. All the same sign. Motion's carried.
Motion to approve the letter of appointment for Therese O'Grady as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
All the same time. Motion carried. Information,
Just for open records, very small amounts of open records, mostly related to the upcoming election, wanting to know, emails, phone numbers of the candidates who put in their paperwork. It's pretty difficult for this time of year, that's it. So, very limited.
okay. We're on committee reports, finance committee.
Sure, so the finance committee met on Monday, the 22nd, and again, we did our quarterly review. We're halfway through our fiscal year. Again, we did a comparison between where we were a year ago until where we were now. We just kind of seeing again, everything is really right on schedule. There is one piece that we're a little bit over, which is the supply budget. Having a lot of new staff, we kind of get some things started, so that'll be something that we continue to watch for too as well. But other than that, we're right on track with salaries, benefits, which are the usual for those, transportation and things like that too as well. So everything looking good there. We did update our second Friday count in January, and again, we have 906 students in our school currently. But when you take a look at the school revenue formula with student FTE, we're at the same number, 886, as we were on our third Friday count. So in a school finance world, they take those two numbers, average them, and then that is your revenue limit for your following year that goes on to the 23-24 school year. So that will be 886 for next year too. So also included an update to our budget calendar, which ultimately started, back in November, December, and carries us through October when we finalize the levy and all the steps along the way from that standpoint too. So a couple of big milestones upcoming is about continuing to keep the finance committee and the board updated as it relates to preparations for the 24-25 budget, because in May and or June, we will have to approve a budget because we'll start spending July 1st for the 24-25 fiscal year. Understand, we don't know our final budget until the end of October. So again, a lot of preliminary plans. Now, the good news is, well, this budget, we know what opportunities we have from a revenue limit standpoint because we're in the second year of the biennial budget. So that gives us a lot more consistency, and we can really know what we're going to try to hit as it relates to the possible with enrollment and stuff like that, with some of those key figures too as well. So the one piece that's always up in the air that we can't control is the property values in the district too as well. So then that's all related to the tax levy though, so not our budget related. So couple other things, CPI update, and CPI is used for many different things, and we hear that number a lot on the news. Two big things that we use that for in the district. One is it is for the maximum amount that we can negotiate with our teachers on a base wage from a negotiation standpoint with the teachers. So that is 4.12%. The other piece is it kind of gives us a benchmark to say supply budget, like we just talked about, everything is up approximately 4.12%. So when we start taking a look at what our budgets might have to increase by as it relates to kind of general things for the school district, we take a look at that. So we multiply what we're currently doing, we're taking a look at what we do, understanding that there could be a 4%-ish CPI increase to a lot of those things too as well. So it kind of helps us with some budget preparation from that standpoint. And the last thing, again, I just wanted to kind of bring the board up to date a little bit about a possible opportunity that we may or may not be moving forward with, and we'll see how our food service and particularly Fund 50 performs. Again, Fund 50 is where our food service accounting comes through. All the debits, all the credits go through Fund 50. The goal of every food service program is to be self-sufficient and not have any monies taken from Fund 10, which is our general fund, to help assist in our food service program, right? Well, what we have here and what I presented to the finance committee, again, it's for, not for a huge discussion right now, because I'm not asking for any authority or anything, but the opportunity to take the electric consumption that is used by our food service provider to create all the lunches every day, to possibly charge that to the food service account. What that would mean is it would save money from Fund 10 or general fund that we then would pay through Fund 50 instead. So it's just an accounting way to save some money in our general fund, potentially. The only way we can what's called net meter our food service is either you build a new school and you have all the electric panel set into one electric meter that We Energies would monitor, or there's these devices in which they can place on the devices and in the electrical panel that actually monitors how much electricity, your ovens, all of the things that are happening in your food service, which then equates to amount of kilowatts, which equates to price per kilowatt, like we would see on our electric bill. The opportunity there would be is we can save money from Fund 10 and now place it into Fund 50. The one piece is in that I wanted to make sure that if in fact we ever would do this, we don't want to pass that price on to, you know, our families. We don't want to raise food service prices 50 cents to cover the electric bill. No, we're talking about pennies. If you know, to taking a look at what it is that we might possibly save or whatever it would be from our food service price per meal standpoint too. So a lot goes into it. It's just an opportunity. There is approximately a $22,000 upfront cost to install the equipment or the net meters to be able to justify and show to DPI that this is how much our electricity our food kitchen is using. And then there is a $300 recurring bill that helps with the computer monitoring, creating spreadsheets and doing all that too. And that also to help with the monitoring system, truly. Now, you'll see there though, Data Wrangler is the company that does this. I really haven't found another company yet because it is fairly new in the state of Wisconsin. There would be a savings share at a 60%. We would say we save $10,000, they take $4,000, and we would take and save $6,000. Their fee also includes other opportunities for working with our staff, working with our maintenance crew, myself, our business department, and say, hey, how can we look at your automation systems and continue to save money too as well? So the other nice thing about this net metering is it would allow us to double check some solar consumption and double check that with what We Energy says versus what we feel we're producing and consuming at that time as well. So it's just kind of a new thing that's out there for school to help save money from Fund 10 into Fund 50, because it is really truly food service related, all those kitchen expenses too as well.
And you anticipate that the annual move from Fund 10 to Fund 50 would be about $32,000?
Could be about $32,000. Again, until we put the meters on, it's hard to really guess. School districts that have done this, we have a local school district right next door to us, Oconomowoc, has done this. Again, they're obviously a very larger scale. They have 8 school buildings, and they've saved, they feel they've demonstrated over $300,000 worth of savings across their 8 schools.
For how many years?
Over 1 year.
1 year.
1 year. 1 year.
This was $32,000 every year.
Yep. So
Out of fund.
out of funded. Yep.
Have you looked at, I'm sure you haven't discussed it, but like the impact of moving that on Fund 50 and over the life of Fund 50? Because obviously, I think this past year we approved spending money out of Fund 50 for new tables here. And so thinking about capital expenditures needed in the future, obviously this kitchen's pretty new, because we just did it, but over time, are there funds available?
And that's one of the reasons why school districts don't do it. If you don't feel like you have enough funds available to make sure that that can run self-sufficient. Again, that's one of the drawbacks is you have to make sure that you're able to do that. So you're not running your food service program in the hole as well. So it's the upfront cost, but also to your point, we just don't want to keep, if we can't pull $30,000 from Fund 50, then you might as well not even do it. So that's one of the things that we want to continue to take a look at is how healthy will our Fund 50 fund balance be at the end of the year? So we want to make sure that if we need new tables, we need new tables. Jordan just got done fixing one of our mobile refrigerator freezers. So all of this time and all those equipment charges and those parts go into Fund 50. We do categorize that too. So that is the biggest concern in talking and doing some.
Because it's fine that, I mean, it's great to say we're gonna save $30,000 a year out of Fund 10, but in 5 years, if Fund 10 is at zero, or Fund 50 is at a zero balance because they've now paid electricity and they need something, well, that money's gonna come out of Fund 10 anyway, so it's.
What's the point? And that's why did you just spend $22,000 to do this? And that's really my hesitancy right here, and that's why more to come.
What is it? And I'm getting the weeds now, but for them to come in, is this something, if the fund balance we felt was strong by, let's say, end of the year and projections looked good, is this something that gets done in a few weeks period of time for them to come in? This isn't like a year-long process.
No, it's truly an electric company coming in and installing this stuff too. It's a quick turnaround, and that's why, Andrew, your point is exact, to make sure that, hey, let's see how this year goes. We can do this in the summer, ready to go for the 24-25 school year.
So if this is something that you will recommend, maybe bring us some financial modeling for.
Correct, yeah,
what it would look like.
Correct, yeah, because this will be a $22,000 purchase. I have to bring this through the board, but more to come, again, because I'm really concerned about what it is stock.
And the 300 recurring, is that annually, monthly?
Monthly, correct, yep, and the contract that Data Regular is asking for will be a 2-year contract.
We anticipate there'll be more companies doing this, so they'll have competition eventually.
I'd like to think so. But right now, they're the key player on the block. So again, just wanted to kind of bring this to you as something that, so when we do come ready for you, it's not something that's just like for this. Thank you.
Over the years, Fund 50 was always pretty close
Pretty close to what?
to balancing. COVID helped us because
Right.
then everything was paid for. So that helped us get a surplus.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if just this year would be enough data for us to tell us whether there is a savings to be gained.
Yeah.
Because we're back to a normal lunch program. And are we making, balancing out?
Correct.
Participation is a big thing.
And our participation hasn't moved truly in the last 3 years. And particularly from last year, this year, we're within lunches of how many we sold the last 6 months of school in the first quarter. So thank you for listening to that. Policy personnel, again, is highlighted, we met on the 11th. Again, I want to say, basically, open invite, we can confirm around paid time off and anything that anybody else wanted to talk about, but it really was focused on that paid time off for our staff. So again, the policy and personnel committee will be getting back together. I will have a proposal for the policy and personnel committee to consider based on some of the feedback that we received. And then hopefully moving that forward to next February board meeting for a first read of that possible change to our paid time off structure moving forward. That would be something that would be ready to go, and that would be moved into our employee handbook starting July 1st. So this is looking forward to the 24th students. So thank you to Nicole and Andrew for that. About student achievement, and we met right before the school board meeting. Big thank you to Maria and Steve. We did showcase and kind of discuss our tentative calendar for the 24-25 school year. Again, it looks very similar to what it did a year ago. You will see a couple differences. One is the Thanksgiving break for families is a full week. Staff will be coming in for some professional development at that time, and no half days for next year. And again, that's kind of the biggest change. Still 1 day a month off for professional development and for families to kind of catch their breath too, if it's something that they want to do. But a big thank you to Maria for that calendar work. And again, trying to align with Arrowhead as well for our families as well as our transportation budget too. Yeah. Maria outlined kind of the curriculum renewal design cycle update. The last time that we really took a look at that was back in 22, I do believe, a couple of years ago. And just kind of showcase what that's going to be looking like moving forward. It is aligned to the state design cycle as well. So when they update something, we're right with them to making sure that we're making those adjustments as needed. The last two things we talked about, one was Act 20, of course. We talked a lot about that, which is the new literacy curriculum. Again, Maria put together a presentation with what we know today. And what I do like to see is when we talk about that Act 20 update, she has continued to file what she talked about in October and now January. So the big thing is just for our public to know is this is a big deal. We got a 72 step, or was it 73, Maria? 73 step process into implementing Act 20. So I've been doing this 13 years and I've never seen a 73 step process. So there are significant impacts to us. Maria and her team are on it. And what that means for our school board is there may be some corresponding policies as we move into this. So to decide what it is that we're going to do and how we create policies that can apply to that law too as well. So again, a lot of information there, just going right there.
I know the community has some questions in the past, and I wanted to point out that if they go to Maria's presentation, there's some clarification on things that people have questions about, some of the standards that are allowed. And so there is more information from that we just didn't know.
Right.
Thank you, Mariah.
Yeah. And on that slide, it's like, hey, what questions have we been asked? And we try to address those too as well. So, so yeah, so lots there. And then finally, Steve talked about, he did his update for his improvement planning and things like that. Showcased our student data in there, some, top fives and bottom fives. And it's really nice to see that the bottom fives are still well above what any comparisons would be to. So, it was great because Steve talked about our top five having all aspects of our stakeholders, about our families, about our students, and about our staff. It was really great to see. So a lot of great things there too. So the one piece that will be brought up more towards the end of the board meeting will be focused around creating a class with our social emotional learning competencies about what it is that the board can kind of think about and what kind of our goalposts. You put a really nice graphic in about as we think about SEL. We would like to, when I say we, our administrative team in our school, would like to respond to some of the student data, the parent data, and the staff data that we got surrounding what SEL competencies or what do we want all students to learn? Because right now we have anywhere between 30 to 40% of students opting out of our SEL program, which is causing some barriers that we'd like to address a little bit more too. So you'll see in the when you rewind the film, if you want to watch it, some of the things that Steve highlighted as some of those barriers. So the Student Achievement Committee will talk a little bit about it as we think about future meetings and agenda items and talk more about it in the meeting. So big thank you to Maria and Steve for leading those committee. Finally, strategic planning. Again, you can see the two agendas there. We've met 2 times since the holiday, January 2nd to January 25th. Again, continue to really truly look at data. A big thank you to all of our community. We had 60 people participate in the listening sessions, and they gave us a 22-page report. When I say they, being Excel leadership, it's all linked into your board packet. And the team, for instance, this last meeting really dove into that, and it's becoming pretty apparent what are some of those common themes to really build around. And those themes are workforce engagement, parent and community engagement, and and something around the students and, you know, that teaching and learning standards too as well. So, lots of great things. Again, big thank you to our community, and our staff who are participating in that. We've got 14 people participating. So, lots going on. We have 2 more meetings set again in February. Again, we, at least Excel leadership, feel we're right on track, making sure that we hit our target of, you know, of a draft for the April May. So we're feeling pretty good.
Can we also remind everyone that in addition to the community members' opportunities to participate in person, there'll be a survey that goes out to the full community, and we're looking for as greatest participation as we can get as possible. All of that data is very useful to us. So if you can all be ambassadors for the project and remind people to take it, it will take about 20 minutes. And its intention is to be comprehensive. And so that's why it is a longer survey, and helping people understand why it is important to make that time is that I really like this process with Excel, because I like how they use the data, how they help us to use the data, and it's been a very data-driven process, which means that all the data that we get, we really do use. So please encourage people to take that survey when it comes out this next week.
It should hopefully come out a little later this week or early next week. Again, that's for parents, community, and staff are all going to have that opportunity, all those stakeholders as well. Thank you for bringing it up. And that's all about kids.
Okay, we're on new business and we have the administrative contracts.
So just, again, from the administrative contract per policy, it's that time here when we approve the rollover for the administrative contracts. Again, I'm recommending that the board make a motion to approve the administrative contract from Maria Kucharski, Steve Newcomer, Lori Viola Larson, and Jim Benny as presented.
We move those as one to be.
You can do them all as one answer, so that's fine.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second during discussion. Then all in favor of lumping those 4 together, say aye.
Aye.
All at the same time. Motion carried. Then we would have Dr. Russ.
Motion to approve the contract for Dr. Russ.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
All at the same time.
Aye.
Okay, 4-1. Okay, we are on to the open enrollment data.
Okay, so, as we talked about in the community forum, the administration this time of year needs to present a recommendation to the school board for open enrollment seats. And again, we created the rationale, put it in there. Again, we'll probably entertain a motion first, and then we can discuss if you'd like, Eugene, if that's the way we want to do that.
Let's get it on the table.
There we go. The motion as made, whoever makes the motion, if chosen, does need to reach grade level and or top as part of that motion.
Okay, I move that we move to approve the 2023-2024 open enrollment seat allocations, including unlimited spots for 4K, 5 spots for 5K, 0 spots for first grade, 8 spots for second grade, 10 spots for third grade, 0 spots for fourth grade, 0 spots for fifth grade, unlimited spots for sixth grade, seventh grade, and eighth grade, 0 spots for cross-categorical special education, and 0 spots for speech only across the district.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Ron, I'm thinking about conversation about how the fourth grade rooms and the 0 spots for fourth grade. We did have 5 fourth grade rooms. What would that be for us?
It would make it almost unlimited. Because if we did 5, that means we would have 18, let's say 19 for that. I would set that to, you know, 10 to 15, and then unlimited. We can be able to handle, because right now we're comfortable, at least the administrative recommendation is comfortable moving that to 24 with 4 sections. we'd be obviously more than comfortable, and ultimately that would mean we need 20 open hallways in one grade to get to that 24 level, so I would say limited. If you wanted 5 sections.
If we. Go to 4 sections. No, it's January, I know that, do we anticipate? Student growth during summer months, do we have an idea of what we normally pick up?
The last couple of years, we've like for 4th grade, and if we take a look at 4th grade, 23, 24, we picked up 5 residents, 22, 23, 4, and 4. So it's been 4 to 5. 4 to 5. 4 to 5. Yeah, which puts us at that 25, right?
We also have the option. If we do get a greater influx, then we do it correct. We've done that in the past, where we've added sections.
Yep, add the section, and then ultimately anybody on the wait list would then be allowed in for that open enrollment. We would say allowed in is, we would ask them if they would like to come, some do and some don't, so.
Has 5th grade been that high before with the learning too?
Yes. In the past, it's been several years, because we don't have that big of classes there, but it's not, and again, working with Steve. Again, when you take a look at the structure of that, with, you know, the houses, they have 2 teachers per kind of house. Again, feel very confident that we can get running at 0 open enrollment, but be able to handle if we have, you know, 4 to 5 more resident kids.
I feel like my questions aren't as much about the open enrollment as they are about the number of 4th grade class next. Is that a different conversation?
But they go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand.
Okay.
We just, part of our recommendation is not having 1 4th grade class on.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate the concerns that that's a different across the school, that there is, it sounds like I'm hearing at least one corrective concern that is there. They are not hearing as glowing reports of behavior as would be indicated. So I'm worried about stress for teachers and class management.
So I agree with what you're saying, and I wrote it down earlier, it was referenced as watch spots. It was also referenced that we tried it in 2nd grade, went larger in 3rd grade. Why is it going to work differently in 4th grade?
Maturity, we have some maturity there.
So concerned because we haven't had a lot of principal, there's some, so places that would be more stressful in a time that we're hoping to calm down, or to have consistent leadership, but we don't have it yet. So I see that as an added stress for meeting a new leader, something getting to know more people. So I'm concerned that's another element, another factor.
Can I ask our community member who's going to have a 4th grader a question? It was just a yes or no response. Do you feel a larger class size or a room that's apart from peers? Which would you pick for your particular child?
For my particular child, I would pick a smaller class size.
Maria, you've been spending a lot of your time in the elementary school. Can you provide us your thoughts on this? It's been specifically about one classroom being away from the others.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely, I think that, you know, we've heard from staff members like to be by their team, so that is definitely something I know. Dr. LaFleur heard from
everybody. I guess one thing I'd say is like trying to make decisions on being kind of staffing neutral and where we put sections is an important part of how we look at things. And the question about third grade in particular, why we have open enrollment seats was quite a heavy conversation between Dr. Russ and myself, as I spent quite a bit of time in second grade classrooms. And we know a couple of things. That class had a very big class size. It was well over 100 early on, and we lost some seats there at open enrollment. Looking at student needs in that particular grade level, you know, I really do thinking from going to 4 sections, it would be better to enter third grade with that particular group to 5 sections. So again, it's hard when we're thinking about like spots in that school. Andrew, to your point, like a long-term solution is something I think we have to come to if we're going to keep that. Because what this eliminates in any of these scenarios, we really don't have a classroom if any class size grows. And that's something that's always, I would say, concerning to me when I was an elementary principal day to day. Because, you know, just like you're saying, like, it's not unusual for classes to kind of pop when they're close. So, you know, it's never an easy decision on staffing and how many sections and how many things are, but you know, I would just say that these open enrollment numbers were based off of kind of keeping stable staffing with the amount of students that we currently have at the primary and what we know most of kids and developmentally where they'd be. So I don't know, I mean, spent a lot of time kind of talking about that and processing it and figuring out where best to put. But that's why third grade has more seats, because obviously if we're looking at potentially additional classes there, again, knowing we have the resident population, frankly, to increase those classes, because that's where we lost some to open enrollment out.
So if we look at 2 factors of class size or class placement, which do you think places more stress on teachers?
Same.
I think it's the same.
I do. Depending on the needs in their classroom, you know, even low class sizes, depending on student needs, can add to that, and higher numbers obviously can have a similar impact. So I wish I could tell you I have a great nifty solution. I don't, you know, but we do need to look long time space.
For each factor, are there things, whichever one, that we could do to offset the negatives? Whichever one, so is there something we could do to offset the negative effect? So the class size is something we could do to offset the downsides of classroom placement.
I mean, I can think of a few things, but not overly helpful. You know, instructional assistants, sharing them between classrooms is usually never a huge thing, although they can help, especially in primary, but it doesn't necessarily help on the instructional planning for teachers. That's required.
From a standpoint of like the 10 seats, if you look at the one document, the history, like in the waterfall as these kids get through, minus this past year, which showed decreases, you're really only getting 1 or 2 open enrollment each year.
Mm-hmm.
So that 10, I would feel, based upon the history that we show here, it's less than 5 increase each year from open enrollment. So it's probably less, you think about class sizes going up, it's gonna be less open enrollment causing it. And could be more section related and people finishing houses and moving. Right.
Yeah, we don't get a flood of open enrollment kids, all of a sudden they just come, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 per grade level.
Right.
It's really a small sprinkle. And most of the growth now is residents.
But you still run the risk if you have 0 for a bunch of units. Just from a standpoint of like somebody is building a house and but it's not gonna be ready until December. They want to open enroll
we would change them to a tuition waiver. If they are building in the district, the state of Wisconsin does allow tuition waivers to occur, and that's how we would accommodate a family like that. That doesn't, it wouldn't apply to open enrollment. If they're going to become a resident, we do the process called tuition waiver, we do the batch.
If we stay with 4 classrooms, how many new students, not of enrolled, how many new students, or how many student spots are we needing to go back to classrooms?
It's a really good question. Probably, again, I know that question was asked by Ms. Martin too as well. Again, we would really truly have to take a look at, again, it's difficult because if we have a first grade need versus a fourth grade need, again, I have one open classroom. We have one open classroom. And if we get to 21, 22 in first grade versus 25, 26 in fourth grade, we've got a dilemma, not a dilemma, but we have a decision to make because we have one classroom with that too as well. So again, I'd hate to put a hard cap on there until we really get to that point, because it's difficult to say, oh, it's automatic, it's 26. But what happens at first grade, it's the 22, and we have that 4 situation, we really choose one, so. Again, unless the board says, hey, once it hits 26, Ron, you're getting another section, we're getting
So regardless of the open enrollment, which we have to include that, the sections discussion or strategy can be amended and changed at any time based upon what's happening.
absolutely.
So they're not dependent on each other, they're independent of each other. This is, the section is to put in context of how you're envisioning next year with an asterisk of based upon how much our district grows from a resident count and potentially from open enrollment.
Correct. Because if we see, if we're on the cusp of, say, 25 and a half, and we have 4 or 5 open enrollees just chomping at the bit to get in, that's, those 2 factors alone may say, okay, if we allow our open enrollees in, let's open the section, and away we go. So Andrew's point is correct.
So 10 was a backdoor number to get to a certain head count.
10 for grade 3, yeah, grade 4. Right, so for next year.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Backdoor number to get this. Yeah.
Despite the fact that reality would tell us we're not gonna get 10.
We are going to get 10. And or
Thinking of those as separate issues and whatnot, don't want to be plus.
yeah, absolutely.
Historically speaking, and thinking about the last couple of years with the growth, when you start getting a better picture or idea on new residents coming in, I know it's ongoing, because obviously all this costs are getting on different times, but like the last few years with the growth.
April and May is really when people are like, hey, by the way, we're gonna be coming next year, our house is gonna be getting finished up, what do they need, can you get us on the list? Typically is when we get the most of it in that April. Okay. Now, we have 3 more students coming next week, or in a couple weeks, who, you know, they wanted to come on in early to get a jump start on this school year, so it's tough to say, but typically in the late spring.
Okay, so could we ask that you update the board on things
We can update them
like in
Sure.
April, and
Yeah.
May?
You have this get trend earlier, but we should know.
Yeah. Right, because we would, if we knew we wanted to open a section, we don't want to wait till August 15th. We truly don't.
I just wanna point out, if you look back at the data, going back to 18, you can see, you know, obviously there's highs and lows in it. If I'm reading this correctly, the sections were always at 4 for 4th grade until this current school year, where we hit a max of 102 kids. And if we look at 3rd grade, which is 95, we allow another 5 in for anticipated residents incoming, it's another 100, which puts us back to where we were in fall, where we had to rearrange things and make a classroom because we knew this growth was coming. So I guess, I'm hesitant to go back down to 4. We went to 5 for a reason, and then we say we have watch spots. I just personally, I realize that discussion is being tabled. We're looking at approving open enrollment tonight, but those are my thoughts.
But you're coming up, those are pretty close. The numbers coming up, numbers going up, not very good. The 102, 150, the 95.
Correct, those numbers are relatively the same
This
versus,
is projected.
correct, versus 79, 86, 83. There was a substantial jump, and that's maintaining now for the next school year. Which is the reason we did all the construction and had the talks that we had. Correct.
I'm gonna pull up on what we added late this past year. We were at the same number of sections we were concerned. Last year, when we set our open enrollment numbers, we did not add a classroom after January.
Let's say in 22, 23, it was 4 sections.
In second grade,
I'm on 4th grade.
4th grade. We had 5 sections. We said, a year ago at this time, we said we were gonna have 5 sections of 4th, 5 sections of 3rd, 4 sections of 2nd, 6 sections of 1st, 5 of 5K, and then 4 of 4K. That's what we have.
Currently today.
Currently today, yeah, so
So
that's
as you said, we added that classroom, that the 4th grade classroom at this meeting January of last year.
Okay.
Correct, is what he's saying, that we didn't add it in May.
Well, no, but we did the construction over summer.
That was for special education and various things.
In 4th grade.
in Maker.
No,
We have a whole community.
that was to move 4th grade.
But we had to create a classroom here for 4th grade if we were keeping them here. We had to find a home for them.
We did, no, it was makerspace, which was on the far end of the building. Got where the climbing equipment was, that open space, so makerspace. And then there was an open classroom, there was one open classroom.
Not at the
We
start.
created
The makerspace and Diane Cleary slid into there.
Okay.
That was the only.
You're saying we made a 4th grade class.
we made an additional classroom to accommodate 5 sections for 4th grade. If we wanted to keep them here and not move them next door, we had to get creative within these walls. And our solution was
the
the
makerspace
space.
take over the makerspace. With nothing to make a space before, but good to make space to shift everyone around.
Correct.
So that's what they could stay.
Correct, in primary and not move to intermediate. So now we still have roughly the same number of kids, but we're saying, we're gonna move them down to 4 classrooms with watch spots. I will just personally don't think that that's a good recommendation. So I don't know if you want to open enrollment so that it makes sense to have 5.
Of increase the.
Otherwise, if you leave it as is, it's 19 kids per class right now. If I did my math correct.
But if you open it and then you get a bunch of 4th grade and a whole bunch come in 1st grade, then you're back to
4th grade's fine. 1st grade is if we get an influx of 1st graders or another grade.
I understand, I think he's saying if you had unlimited open enrollment, or we'll pick a number for
1st
4th
grade
grade.
has 0 right now available.
Right, but if a whole bunch of residents come in 1st grade,
Which they could.
that
This
could bring it up
is saying
to,
it still allows a lot to do.
to get it to 22,
Right.
which is what we're saying.
Then what
So you-
fourth grade?
You're right, but you jump from 18 in first grade this year to 22, so it'd be like 3 more kids per class in first grade. And again, like,
Saying it's 19 right now, so it would be 2 per class.
Yeah, because first grade, we're saying no open enrollment,
Correct.
just residents. To help control the keeping that at 4 sections, so it doesn't tip over into that opportunity where we have to.
Because we don't have flexibility in space.
It's space, right? This,
Yeah.
this proposal allows one room to be flexible to, if in fact we grow, they get watch spot or growth opportunities in either first or fourth, because the other ones are all good in sixth. I understand.
Okay, so if we vote, and you're not in favor of the open enrollment, you have to vote no, you know.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
clarification. Because we're voting on the entirety as it was presented, not class by class.
Right,
We have to have a new motion with a new number.
you have to vote the motion down. And then read,
Correct, and then the other opportunity is, it's just, I make a motion for 4K to be unlimited, and you just do each grade level at a time too, it's up to the board. We,
I'm just using my calculator, so that everybody knows.
so that.
Speech is 0.
Yes, speech is 0.
He's asking me why.
Oh, why? Because we have, right now, we have an influx of students currently in our program that, we may already have to add additional speech, even given residents, so, again, Lori's done our calculations and we are completely full. Because our caseloads currently are for 2 FTE, well over 35 of these,
Okay,
that's why.
and then 4th grade financially, you moving into, 4 classrooms, what's that financially saving here? As far as in teaching?
Sure, this is a reduction in 1 FTE across the district, right here, for normal class sizes. A year ago, we had 45, this proposal would be 44. So it's one FTE,
Which would be about how much?
about 80,000.
All right, and as everybody's saying, this is a pretty spicy class, they're gonna need aids and help. What's that gonna cost?
Well, we wouldn't put, again, our normal structures are not to put aids in. The academic needs will be there regardless of whether there's 24 kids or 18 kids in a class. And that all gets encompassed by our interventions. So there is no additional cost if in fact they go from 18 to 24, because the academic needs will be there regardless. Because they don't go away from this year to next year just because class size goes up.
So is this a decision what's best for our pocketbook or what's best for our students?
What's best for the district. Because it does allow us to keep our 4K through 4th grade at Merton Primary School if in fact something gets bubbled up. As well. This recommendation is in the best, again, the recommendation is truly coming from the best interest of the district. Because if it wasn't, we just would say unlimited open enrollment, let them all come in, whether it be for special ed, speech, or whatever it might be. Because the legislature is saying it's about $10,000 per child, is what they're gonna do for 24, 25.
So the one, maybe last clarification, if we left 0 spots at first and fourth, this proposal goes through, and then one of those classrooms gets to 5, either first or fourth becomes 5. And would there be a waiting list for you to take open enrollment from, or does that 0 mean that nobody signs up to be?
That 0 may scare people off. That 0 may scare people off to say, and I think it was using the example of if they've got a 4K or in a 4th grader, for instance. They know their 4K can get in, but the 4th grader, they can't, so I may have to go on too. So that's why in the past, this is a very different proposal than I've ever done before. Because I'm a big proponent of open enrollment, I really, really am. But given the growth across the district and given looking big picture at on January 29th, not knowing what's gonna happen the next 6 months, whether it be for budget, for new growth, student opportunities, that's where this is all. Because believe me, you guys know me, I love open enrollment. But Rebecca, to answer your question, this definitely will scare people out. When we get the phone call, do you have any spots? We have to say no. With the current motion as stated.
What's the impact if we put 1 or 2 in each of those spaces?
If we put 1 or 2 in there, then ultimately, if there is it's a lottery, we call a lottery at a board meeting, truly, and I do believe it's made. And then we declare student A, student B gets in, and then we create a wait list.
So it's not worried about boards. I wonder what it does to your numbers.
1 or 2? Well, if you add 1 or 2.
Thinking classroom size.
Well, let's see, on average, we get 5 students. Let's say we get 5 new residents, which is pretty much what's happened the last 3 years. Let's just call it 5, that's 100, right? That'd be 25 per class. If you go 4, it'd be 1 per classroom. If you do 2, it'd be a half, which allows a little bit more residency growth. This 26 is kind of a magic number.
I'm thinking about I'm also thinking about wanting to attract families.
Some
So there's some space for, my 2nd grader got in, but I don't have a place for the 4th grader. Not a lot. Before we moved here, we attempted to. For example, if you walked in, I think we were 108 on the list.
Yeah.
We didn't think we'd get in. But there were 4 spots. We knew it was a lot. We still put it in kind of as a possibility as opposed to, but this does then, whoever comes in adds that another student to a very full class.
Right. And bigger picture discussion is back to 4th grade. Because that frees up 4 to 5 classrooms over there, which then gives you basically potential to be unlimited.
Yes.
For attracting open enrollment.
Well, I just have a question.
Discussion.
Rebecca, did you finish your?
I didn't think you were.
For 5th grade, why are we saying 0 when they're at 89? Or because they're gonna go to 102?
Grade. 5th grade is at 102 right now, 4th to 5th grade.
So for next year.
This is
I
next
see.
year's projection, yeah, these are 24.
Sorry.
So again, because we're moving that group from, like Kristen highlighted, 5 to 4.
Mhm.
Again, given a few residents growth, away we go. That's why I know open enrollment. Twenty-five and 50 grade classes.
Why would we want to keep, sorry guys, I'm talking out loud here. For 3rd grade, why would we, I understand the benefits of open enrollment, but if we add 10. Now you're back at 105.
If you,
To the 95, we add 10 spots, now we're
no,
accommodating
it's, you have to go to 3rd grade. 3rd grade has 70 and 80.
You're advancing one that counts.
95.
We've already advanced everybody. 4th grade, that's our current.
You've already advanced.
Everything is advanced.
Okay,
Yep, everything is advanced.
thank you. Okay. But then shouldn't it be 24, 25?
Yeah. So this created. This is 24.
No.
Fine.
All right.
And this is everybody move forward. Good question. It's a lot. We talked, like Maria talked about, we talked a lot about.
Any thoughts about whether or not we should move with the open enrollment as is or?
Well, motion is.
We have
The motion is on tape. We have.
So if we're ready to vote, then do more discussion.
Okay, no more discussion. All in favor of the open enrollment seat as presented? Your motion. Say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Carried 3 to 2. Just so everybody knows. Some years this happened. And it's, you're here in January and you're thinking, how can this work? But you know, we've always, when we've had to, because we've always maintained the class size. We've done some last minute things to make it work. And if that's the case, it should be always have lower interest rates, and all of a sudden housing. You never know. Lots of,
Well, and to be clear, we just voted on open enrollment, we are revisiting the
Absolutely.
section
We're gonna
size.
continue to keep an enrollment cap and we'll, that's not uncommon for us to report out enrollment, do as well, so. But I can tell you, in my 13 years of doing this, we've never had this level of discussion program. That's how unique this is right now.
okay, we are on to the 24-25 calendar. Is there any discussion on that, or concerns?
If you have any discussion or concerns or questions, please let us know. The question did come up at the student achievement, and we shared it with families, we shared it with staff. I've gotten zero feedback on that too, so.
Okay, then we're on to the new policy approval and old policy deletion.
Anything?
So. On your sheet, would you add 652 on that one? Or is that
652. No, 652 is the first one. Is on the administrative recommendation.
Okay. Motion to approve policy 652 revenues and investments. As put forward by the policy committee.
Yep.
I think that's how that's supposed to be.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, 4-1.
Were you against it?
No, I'm for it. I was just like,
Okay,
I didn't know if there was a delay on the speaker. Okay, motion to delete policies 5001 and 6010 and replace policies with policy 411 equal educational opportunities that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is carried.
Motion to delete policies 5001.1 and 5001.2 and addendum C in policy 4019 and replace the policies with policy 411 discrimination complaint procedure rules that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Motion to approve policy 411.2 education of homeless children and youth that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action. Three is being,
Because I'm on paper.
yeah, 3 is not. We pulled it.
That's it, okay. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.
Okay, motion to approve policy 411.2 education of homeless children and youth rule that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor then say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.
Motion to approve policy 411.3 children in foster care that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Motion to approve policy 411.3 children and foster care rule that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
All same time, motion carried.
Motion to approve policy 412, full-time students that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided by the full board for its consideration and action.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye. All same time, motion carried.
Motion to renumber policy 6023 to policy 412, full-time students. Ron, that doesn't seem right. Motion to approve, because we just approved 412 above and 8.
We folded, let me see, we folded two of those together. We folded them together. Yes, that's why, probably just should have been motion.
You still have to get rid of.
603.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
602.
We're okay with that. But so those two listed in one. Yep.
So, to clarify, we in 8, we approved 412. 9, we're renumbering.
Actually, what I would probably recommend is let's just delete 6003.3 and 6003 all up.
Right.
Do that, yes.
So
Let's just do
9
that.
and 10.
Okay. So delete them.
Yep, we can do 9 and 10 together.
Okay.
And then we all 412.
Well, we're gonna do it. Motion to delete policy 6003 that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, everybody understands what we did? All in favor, then say aye. All same time, motion carried.
Motion to delete policy 6003R that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action. Motion to renumber policy 6000.3R to, that has been. To the, okay. Motion to delete policy 6000.3R. It has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye. All same time. Motion carried.
Okay, motion to delete policy 6004.1 and replace the policy with policy 423, public school open enrollment that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye. All same time. Motion's carried.
Motion to approve policy 423, public school open enrollment rule that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye. All same time. Motion's carried.
Motion to delete policy 4020 and replace policy with policy 424, participation of non-public school students in district programs. That has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye. All the same time. Motion carried.
Motion to delete policies 4001.5 and 4001.6 and replace policies with the policy 431, student attendance, that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye. All the same time. Motion carried.
Motion to approve policy 431, student attendance rule, that has been recommended by policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Motion to approve policy 431 truancy exhibit that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion's carried.
Motion to approve policy 434 release time for religious observation and instruction that has been recommended by the policy committee and provided to the full board for its consideration and action.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Thank you. Again. A few more chances to do that.
Okay, we've got future meetings on agenda items. Meeting 26.
Yeah, I think we want to, student achievement committee would like to bring forward, discussion on the creation of a class for all. It's outlined in, Steve's request in this presentation. With information forthcoming from the administrator.
Correct. Yeah.
Prior to that.
Prior to that meeting, we'll continue to update you guys and give us some information to think about. Absolutely.
Okay, the March 18th meeting.
Oh, I have something else. I don't know where you want to put it. But our numbers from these. What's perceptions?
School perceptions.
School perceptions indicate that we still have about a 50% trust rating from our staff. And so while we're getting better than we were a year ago, I think we should have a discussion on how we can help to actively work to build trust with our staff.
February meeting.
Discussion. I don't really know what the answers are, but we're gonna not discuss. And then given tonight, I'm wondering when we need to start having a space planning discussion. We don't have enough space, and I don't know if that's something we plan out. Is there a facility subcommittee that takes that up first?
We certainly can do this.
When do teacher contracts go out?
Teacher contracts go out in May 15th. I mean,
Well, that for this year, but also a longer term.
we can do it.
plan.
Let's send it back to the facility committee.
Okay.
Oh,
We'll have that on the next.
did you want to have a conversation with the board about what the parameters would be around that, or do you want to have some global conversations? As you have opportunities to build a wing, you have opportunities to move fourth grade over to Merton Intermediate School. Those are the two glaring ones. With other ideas.
I think it's useful to know what to do.
I think what the committee should bring back to the board is options.
When is the committee meeting? Or
We just create it, or with scheduling. Would you like that ahead of February's meeting, or do you want to do that for March?
Yeah, that'd be-
In February is the next strategic planning update, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a,
Okay, so by the March board meeting, it's 18th, it's early. Okay. Facilities, and take a look at what opportunities we have for growth. Again, we do have all that opportunities, we can revisit that certainly.
Then we have an April 29th meeting.
Other meetings that we would like to bring the board together would be for the primary school principal interview. We'd love to get some on the calendar. So then we can start to, promote staff, families, and things like that too. So more to come on the entire process about what that looks like. But for sure, for our posting, we were looking at first round interviews on the week of March 4th. And then final round interviews would be, or final or second, to reserve another date for the board the week of March 11th. So for the week of March 4th, we'd love to have 2 evenings reserved. Again, depending on how many candidates we have, but again, we'd like to reserve 2 evenings.
And we have strategic planning on the fifth already.
That's a Tuesday, correct, Rebecca? Yep. So what about Monday the 4th and Wednesday the 6th? The work.
Not sure.
That Wednesday? Thursday is the 7th, yes.
How long are you anticipating?
It's tough to tell until we really see the entire candidate pool. It may just be one night. It could be one longer night, Monday, and then Wednesday could be a shorter. I'd love it to be shorter anyway for some deliberation time.
Oh, you're not available at all. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Here and stuff.
Does that work?
Sorry, so I can do the 7th or the 8th.
So 4th and 7th, 4th and 7th.
Ron, the 7th is parent teacher conference evening. I don't know if that would
Oh,
affect
that will
meeting participation, so I would suggest not to pay Mark 7th.
That would be already.
Well, let's just move that.
I'll let that come from you.
Can we wrap it up by
Is that for
6?
primary, just to the immediate school?
By 6?
It's on the primary calendar. I'm not sure which,
That's what I was wondering.
so I know it's the primary.
We end the.
Right.
That's strategic planning, but I don't, that means. like,
Otherwise,
That's-
can we start right at 4 or can we start earlier?
We could go for Monday, we could go start at 4:30, would be the earliest we could start. And then we could go till 9, that gives us, you know,
Gonna do it all in one.
5 applicants. Approximately.
Let's plan that.
That's why I'm doing it all in one. I'm fine.
That's fine, I mean, it gives us the most time and some flexibility there, okay. All right, March 4th, okay. And what about the following week?
Parent teacher conferences are on the 12th at the primary that following week.
What about the 11th? Coming back, on Monday. First.
The 11th works.
Yeah, which would be after that one.
Works, all right, March 11th, there it is.
4:30 again or is 5?
5 o'clock. Actually, let's book 4:30, I'll send you guys calendar invite, but book 4:30 till
5 is better.
well, 5 is the
I
earliest.
gotta,
Okay,
5
5
is, leave a 4 o'clock meeting to get your.
5 o'clock, yep, 5 o'clock.
Any other, meetings or agenda items?
Yeah. Policy.
That's on the agenda, talking to about.
Okay.
Yep. You ready, already, you ready to go? A lot of red on it. All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, then say aye.
All right.
Here. Everybody.